All right. Welcome, everyone, to the Oakland Center for Spiritual Living. I'm Reverend Allie Hutchinson. I'm a staff minister at OCSL. My pronouns are she and they, and I'll be your host tonight for our Wednesday night Oasis service. Oasis is a place where we come together midweek for spiritual refreshment. Most of the time, we have talks that build on the theme from the previous Sunday, sharing science of mind principles and practices with the intention that these gatherings be informal and interactive. Our annual theme, which you may know, for 2024 is a grand rising, and our monthly theme for November is abundance, otherwise known as abundance. Last Sunday, Reverend Lisa Hamilton introduced ideas inspired by this week's theme, loaves and fishes. And tonight, our speaker will continue exploring that same topic. So, newcomers, if you're new to our community or watching a recording for the first time, please visit our website at oaklandcsl.org. If you click on the I'm new icon and look at the lower left-hand corner, you can submit your email address and you will start getting our weekly email newsletter, The Village News. It has all the information about what's going on in our center in the coming weeks. So before we get started, we invite everyone to please mute your microphone. It will improve the quality of the recording and tonight's transmission, and you can leave your camera on if you like. And please stay tuned through the end of the service for several important announcements. So our speaker tonight is Gabriella Condi. Gabriella is a nature lover, environmental sustainability nerd. She called herself that. An educator, an energy healer, a collage artist, a swimmer, a hiker, a supportive daughter, and a doting aunt. So we'd like to thank her in advance for being our speaker tonight. But first, we always start with prayer. So I'm going to invite everyone who's here to just settle into wherever you find yourself. I'm going to take a couple of deep breaths and I invite you to do the same. Just letting each breath be a little bit slower, a little bit deeper than the last. Letting all the concerns from the day slip away. And in that quieter place inside, we have the ability to contact spirit within us, spirit as us, that one presence, that one power, that one mind that is the force that creates divine order in all of creation, that designed and created all of it and is the substance of all of it, that poured itself into the creation simply to evolve with it and in it. It's that unlimited source of love and joy and peace, of wisdom, and again, that divine order that holds all the sometimes seemingly jangly parts and pieces in this sublime, perfect divine order, whether we can be aware of it in the moment or not. Keeping everything evolving toward its highest and best. I know that I am simply one piece of that one beingness, and I know that for everyone here, everyone who hears the recording later, everyone within the sound of my voice, everyone who exists, just each one of us a unique manifestation of that one beingness. I know this meeting is blessed. I know that our speaker is simply opening herself to allow the words of spirit to come through so that every word spoken is exactly what needs to be said. Every silence is the silence that needs to happen. That we connect in our discussion in exactly the way we need to connect. And we leave here with that greater sense of oneness that we carry into our lives. That it touches everyone we meet throughout our week. I know that this intention we have to bring that perfection into our awareness has already been met by spirit, that the law only says yes to those intentions and is saying yes right now. So I let go, I let God. I anchor this prayer by saying, and so it is. And now I will transition to our speaker, Gabriella.
Thank you,
Invite all
Allie.
of you to just sit back and enjoy.
Thank you. That was beautiful.
Thank you.
All right. Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. I'm speaking on the loaves and fishes story theme and continuing with our abundance theme of November. My biggest question tonight is, when do you feel abundance? Just as the practice of gratitude wakes up our awareness that we are indeed living in a field of blessings, there are other ways that we may feel abundance, and I would love to hear about them after this. When I was a kid, I loved the loaves and fishes story from the Bible. I was told a lot of stories about Jesus while in church. The compassion and simplicity in his miracles was easy to relate to as a kid with my young, open imagination and an easy connection with my own heart. I learned what Christ consciousness is from both the teachings and by the example of my community. And that term, Christ consciousness, probably wasn't around back then, but you don't always need words to explain things that already exist. From where I'm from, we called him Christ, and that name has a brotherly connotation when it's spoken like that. And as a kid, the loaves and fishes story in my memory was like a big church gathering. I envisioned the gathering in a valley in the middle of rolling hills. And the people kept coming over the hills, and the food servers just kept providing the food. It was like the flow of the food service somehow just kept appearing as the people came over the hill. And Jesus, with his golden light, I still associate the color gold with him, just kept confirming that it was coming, like, keep coming, we got food. And somehow in that flow and motion, the fish and bread came in. I know Reverend Mitch said 2 weeks ago, some people think it was out of thin air. I didn't even want to give it words, to be honest. It just was there. And I have this feeling of that story when I volunteered at the Emeryville Food Bank. I did that more during the pandemic than I am lately. But when I'm there, there are volunteers assembling boxes of groceries while folks are coming in to pick up food. And then there's deliveries from stores that have food that's extra because it's, past one due date. And then there's other people that are tossing the produce that's gone bad into the compost. And there's just this movement of food, and it's going out and it's going in, and they want you to take it home because they're grateful for your time. They want you to take it for people who need it. And when I'm there, I've told them, I feel like this is loaves and fishes. And of course, they're children of a preacher, so they got my comment. Anyways, this past week, I read the 3 chapters of the Bible that tell this story, and it's in the book of Matthew, and a lot is covered in those 3 short chapters around the legacy teachings of Jesus, though I'm not crazy about the word legacy because I think it has an ego orientation to it. But nevertheless, this passage covers his healing, the miracles, faith, gratitude, and abundance. And of course, I was reminded of the giving thanks before breaking bread. It's very clear. I also noticed that at the end of a lot of verses, when they're talking about the healing that people came to him for, it said, and they were made whole. And I didn't know that. I know we talk about wholeness a lot in Science of Mind. And I'm still trying to understand what people mean when they say that. I think I get the gist of it. But it intrigued me to see those words written so much in this passage. And also the loaves and fishes event happens more than once, which I didn't realize. Like one time there's 5 loaves of bread, another time there's 7. And the first time it's 5,000 people, and the next time it's 4,000. And these are the same people that came to Jesus for healing. These are people with illness, injury, disability. And he says that he wants to feed them before they make their journey home because he doesn't want them to faint, which makes total sense to me. And there's a lot in these verses that I heard as a kid, like the term, my mom used to say this a lot, "Oh, ye of little faith." And faith the size of a mustard seed can move mountains. That was one I heard a lot. And it's all there. And the church context in which I grew up in is the Mormon church in Oakland. Yes, that big place on Lincoln Avenue. And in that building, when I was a kid, there were a number of congregations meeting at different times. There were Tongans, Samoans, Cambodians, Latinos. I used to wait for my mom as she finished playing the piano for the Spanish-speaking service. These groups wanted their services in their own language. We had family friends within the church that hosted Laotian refugee families who escaped the communist takeover in Laos in the 1970s and helped them assimilate into Oakland. Of course, there were white folks, and contrary to perception, there were also Black folks. Eldridge Cleaver of the Black Panthers joined the church in the early 80s. And as a kid, to me, this was Oakland in the 80s. We weren't always intermingling with each other, but we did have camps, dances, service projects, theater performances, basketball nights, youth events where we did overlap. There was always kids to play tag with. I played a lot of tag as a kid. I loved tag. And it was something you could just pick. It's like soccer, and it's, in other countries, you could always pick it up. And as you were running around, you might see the Polynesians setting up their big cookout with the pig roast. And to me, that building was abundance. And it was beautiful. And being in community like that, well, it still provides me a sense of feeling abundance. When I come to Sunday service and I get to talk to you all and meet you, get to know you all a little bit more than I did before, and I get hugs and a lot of hugs, my cup does fill up. And community is a place where I really get to feel abundance. A friend of a friend just wrote a book called The Power of Enough: Finding Joy in Your Relationship with Money. And she explains abundance as this: when we view wealth as the abundance of meaningful experiences, we are more likely to make financial decisions that prioritize personal growth, relationships, and community well-being. And even though she gets more into the financial piece, I just liked her definition of abundance. So some more smaller scale experiences of abundance that came to mind when I was exploring this were when I was a kid. My parents went through different phases with food and cooking and baking. And my dad went through a bread making phase, and back when people ate bread. And he would do this on the weekends when he had more time, because it takes some time if you're not using a bread maker. And he would have like 5 to 6 bread loaf tins, and he'd bake it, and we'd have 2 or 3 extra that we didn't need, so we would drop it off on we'd think of someone to drop it off at, and we'd go on their front porch. We'd leave a warm loaf of bread in a bag. Just sticking with the bread theme, had to share that one. My dad and I love doing things like that. Another current thing that I like to do that makes me feel abundance is participating in Facebook Buy Nothing, which is focused around neighborhoods. You can post something that you don't need. You post pictures of it. Someone who wants it enough to come to your porch and pick it up. You get to stoke. It's fun to stoke people. It's fun to make people feel like they are abundant. During the pandemic, a lot of folks moved out of my neighborhood, and there were always free boxes on the sidewalk, because and they were often liquids from kitchens and bathrooms. I guess people don't want that kind of weight. And I can't tell you how many free shampoo bottles I grabbed from those boxes. I didn't spend money on shampoo for like 3 years, and I would give thanks in the shower as I washed my hair. So these are just some experiences that I'm sharing that make me feel abundant. Um, while participating in experiences that make me feel abundance or notice abundance, like gratitude, Dylan talked about gratitude last week. That's a way we can notice abundance and get into that mindset. And it's just nice to give thanks. I hear that there are also impediments to experiencing the flow of abundance. For example, Lisa Hamilton, this part I did here at Sunday, she talked about believing and feeling your own worthiness and deservingness of abundance. I would say that that could be an impediment. And another impediment that I have heard of and I'm still exploring, I'm intrigued by, I don't fully get it, is the need to forgive, for the relationship between forgiveness and prosperity. And sorry, I've heard that the need to forgive can get in the way of experiencing financial abundance. I don't remember if this is a teaching of Science of Mind or it was just an idea going around. I started taking the Prosperity Plus class years ago, and I was telling Dusky Pierce, I don't know if any of you remember Dusky Pierce, but I was, hey, I signed up for the class. It was a Reverend Jerry and Dylan class, and she said, oh, you might want to look at forgiveness. People who have trouble with forgiveness have trouble with abundance. And that was fascinating to me. On an intuitive level, I get it. Holding a hurt, a grudge, a grievance, an unhealed wound, or a feeling of bitterness, all of that has a stagnant and frozen quality to it, like a frozen piece of life force energy or something. Whereas the words abundance and circulation have feelings of flow and movement in them. So as Christopher Brown said in his Oasis, I think it was 2 weeks ago, he said, carrying the sword of defeat or defense can get heavy and weigh you down. Are there places in our lives where we can lay down that weight and open up to a flow? I have a book written by a practitioner of Hawaiian shamanism, and he talked about this idea in this chapter about studying energy flow and the power of the present moment. And I'm just going to read it to you. One of my students, a Tahitian woman, had a long-standing feud with her sister over some property to the extent that her sister was taking her to court in a very nasty way. After mulling over the teaching the night I left, this woman decided to say a prayer of forgiveness for her sister, no matter what she had done or would do. The very next morning, her sister called, said she had thought the whole matter over and decided to drop the lawsuit and not dispute the property anymore. Of course, saving money is also a form of financial abundance. Another experience I've had about understanding the relationship with forgiveness and abundance was when I was studying for my energy healing certification. I practice a healing modality where I identify trapped emotions in the body, and then I help people release them. These emotions are not fully processed at the time of an emotionally charged event or after. And they they show up as stored energy in the body. And one phenomena in this healing modality is the existence of a heart wall. And a lot of us have a heart wall. A heart wall is an energetic wall in front of your heart that is built with motions you're not fully done with, that are often associated with times where you felt that you needed to protect your heart from breaking. The heart wall is a form of protection. But just like wearing seatbelts on an airplane, which serve as a great form of protection in the moment, when you land and move on, you don't need that seatbelt anymore. And you can't see this heart wall, but it can get kind of big.
So here are yours. Where are your headphones?
And it's an impediment. And it's something that's kind of in the way of your heart. And my teachers have said it's an impediment to the giving and receiving of love and all that the heart wants to kind of put out in the world. And I've also heard that it can also get in the way of receiving prosperity. We spend a lot of time with our minds in this philosophy, but I do think that our heart is manifesting just as much as our minds. And so when I was learning about this while getting certified with my healing modality, it made more sense to me to explain this idea of forgiveness and abundance, and what is our work to do to open up a greater flow in that heart space. Our hearts have to do with prosperity just as much as love, I guess. And you can remove your heart wall. For me, in this particular healing work that I do, doing the emotional piece first and moving the energy along makes it easier for me to mentally and consciously forgive someone. It just sets it up to be easier. I don't need to condone behavior that, wasn't good. But it's if I can move through the emotional piece and the lasting energy from something that I felt the need to defend, protect, judge, be angry about, then I can move into a lighter mental state to forgive. And I do believe that that will help me and others receive more, whether that's love, whatever makes us feel abundance, love, prosperity. And so that's my work to do. And my questions for us this evening are, when do you feel abundance? And where in your lives, if you're comfortable sharing something like this, can you lay down that weight of a grievance? Because that could possibly open up a greater flow in your life to experience abundance, whatever makes you feel abundant. And with that, I am complete with my talk. You want me to write that in the chat?
There we go. Trying to get my mic on. So sounds like you're ready to move into the discussion part of
Yeah.
tonight's thing. So yeah, we invite everyone to turn your cameras on if you like. If you would like to say something, just use the icon, to raise your hand, or if that's difficult because the device you're on, you can just wave. And Peter and I will try to help Gabriella notice who wants to talk. So anybody want to say anything?
I have something to say.
Andrea, go ahead, yeah.
Okay. Well, I was raised in an Episcopal church, and so I would too was we revisited the loaves and fishes story many times, and Gabriella, as you were talking, I was thinking about how a story like that, I've always thought of it in terms of suspending belief, suspending your sense of what actually happens in the world. But then I realized that in that sort of disconnection of kind of logic or whatever, or our experiences with the real world don't comport like that. I realized that maybe Jesus was giving instructions without saying it specifically. Jesus was saying there's a lot of resource in big communities, and really a lot is possible.
Hmm.
And I remember in the pandemic, I think I've mentioned this before, but I was just amazed at how the government, opened up its, financial shop to help people. And, I think most people don't realize the power of the US government, or, the power that everyone has in terms of when people, I think when people get in touch with their abundance and their gratitude, that it's infectious when they share it with others.
Great.
And Gabriella, you did a lovely job. It was so fun to listen to you.
Oh, thanks, Andrea. Thanks for your share.
Yeah.
Beth.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Hey, Liza?
Thank you so much, Gabriella. That was wonderful. And I really appreciated your talking about the story of the loaves and fishes, because it's something about the way you told it. It brought back the magic of it, because I didn't grow up going to church, but I did go to a Quaker school, and we had a Bible class. And I remember hearing that story, and it was just so wonderful. And then later I had a history teacher a few years later, and she explained it. She said, well, it wasn't like he just made more loaves and fishes. It was just that he just told people, that there was enough and they should be sharing with the people next to them that didn't have enough. And it kind of spoiled it for me. I don't know. I mean, and now I think that, well, either version is actually wonderful, but I remember just thinking, oh, I kind of like the idea of Jesus just taking a loaf and having it multiply. But anyway, for me, just recently, and I spoke about this at the Dr. Dan group, so sorry, some of you have to hear this again. I'm feeling abundant in all the people in my neighborhood who have helped me. I live in an apartment building with there's 3 other apartments, and everybody here has offered to help me, and they've carried my groceries up the stairs, and usually I take out the trash bins, and my neighbor said, oh no, I'll do that, took out the trash bins. And my other neighbor went shopping for me, and Ruth has called me like almost every day, and she went shopping for me. And then I was thinking, oh, her knee hurts sometimes too. And I was thinking, oh, I don't want her to. So I got down the stairs, and then she came back, and my neighbor Lorraine came over, and she said, well, she said, do you need anything? I said, yes, you need to take these groceries upstairs for Ruth. And I said, no, I said, no, Lorraine's going to take them upstairs for you. And so I just felt in that moment, it was this perfect timing. And like the first night that I got back from the ER, my brother drove up here and spent the night. And he said, just wake me up, if you need ice or anything, I don't care if it's 3 in the morning. And my sister has been helping me a lot. And I just feel so abundant, and so grateful for my family. My cousin Stuart came over, and I just wanted someone here when I was getting in and out of the clawfoot bathtub. So he stayed and helped. It's just so many people have helped me in so many ways. And it's made me feel abundant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Good
Nice.
thing.
Yeah. So I am complete.
Yeah, I'm glad you're being taken care of.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you're still muted. Sweet.
Okay.
There you go.
Well, that was great, Gabriella. It shows up in your present life how much you have been trained to be a giver. That's for sure. Am I still muted?
No, I
No.
heard you. Thank you,
Oh,
Martha.
good.
Because I have this little sign that says something.
You're good.
Oh, well. So sometimes, abundance for me is just, when do I feel full and just filled up. And it just happened this yesterday was Tuesday, right? It happened yesterday. Once a month, I put out the call to this little gardening group, and this Tuesday, everybody showed up, and we went to the gratitude garden. And it's funny because you can look straight at it at a garden and not know how much work it needs. We pulled so much stuff. We pruned, we took out dead leaves. We had to take multiple trips to the big container. And everybody, it's just that I call it raising the barn. And I lived in the time in Wisconsin where the farmers would, when their barns would burn down or their tornado would take it, they would all come and build a new barn for the person.
Wow.
So I always love those experiences. But at the end of it, that gratitude garden is ready for the winter. It's pruned and ready to grow its stuff for next spring. And then those of us who could, we always go down to the bottom of the hill and have lunch together and share really in wonderful, close ways. So I feel like that when people work together to accomplish something and do it in such a thoughtful, comforting way, that is abundance.
Mm.
And we're all like in our 70s and 80s.
Well, look what you pulled off with community today or yesterday. Thank you.
Yeah.
Margaret.
The abundance of purging and creating abundant space.
Yes, that's part of it. Yeah.
With abundant
Right.
help.
That's
Thank you
great.
for your service.
Yeah, Bonnie, go ahead.
Oh, it's my turn. Hey,
Yay.
everybody. I was just gonna say thank you so much, Gabriella, for this wonderful, wonderful topic and a time to reflect and be reminded. As you all know, I live in Mexico, and it's always hard now for me to leave Mexico to come up here. I have a hard time leaving home. But when I get here, I realize what an abundance of friendship and love that I have here in the Bay Area. We think, well, for me, keep it in the eye that, oh, if I had more money, if I had more, my bank account was bigger, life would be just whatever. It's like, no, life is at its maximum right now with its abundance of outpouring of love, of friends that really want to help and ask me what I need and can they be of help. And I just feel that those are true moments of what abundance is about. And as you know, my husband's Cuban, and one of his stepdaughters asked me for if I had any clothes because she's a big girl and it's hard for her to find clothes in Cuba. And I said, well, I don't have any clothes. All the clothes I have, I don't even like them. I don't even resonate with those clothes anymore. So I thought, well, I'll send her a couple tops. Do you know, I took all those clothes out. It was 8 dresses, 8 tops, 4 headbands. It's like all these clothes to send to somebody that I know will definitely appreciate them. And the thing also that makes me feel really abundant is that it's not cheap to send things to a foreign country. It's really not. I have to pay by the pound. So I had to think about what I'm sending, only send the best of the clothes. And so anyway, to ship it there, it's like, yes, I have the money for that. It's like, how abundant, how rich is my life that I can give this away. And I'm feeling really full with the true meaning of abundance, which comes from within. It really comes from within. And I don't want to take up too much time, but you talked about forgiveness, which is a part of abundance that I forget about. And I don't know how many of you remember Dr. Carol Carnes. She was like one of those interim ministers when Reverend Jeff was,
The name
after he transitioned, she was
Yeah.
one of the ministers. No, it was during Reverend Jones' tenure before Reverend Jeff.
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm old now and dating myself.
name's definitely familiar.
I always think, oh, I've only been with OCSL for a short period, but it's like, no, this was before Reverend Jeff. But she had this writing, and I'll just, if you don't mind, just
Oh,
a
please.
couple lines
Yeah.
that
Please.
I will read, if that's okay. Okay, so I will read this. And she says, Dr. Martin Luther King said, if we cannot forgive, we cannot love.
Mm.
It is good for the soul because forgiveness restores us to our natural state of bliss.
Mm.
It does not mean condoning the act or spending time with the perpetrator. It means to recognize, as King did, that there is good in the worst of us and some evil in the best of us. We can be sure that someone somewhere feels betrayed by us for something we did, and we may not even know it. Has anyone ever forgiven you for anything?
Mm.
And it just says forgiveness is the greatest of all gifts. It's a message to the soul. It says, I know that you are greater than what you did.
Mhm.
So I just wanted to share that because I
Thank
thought
you.
Thank you.
forgiveness is such a hard one.
Great.
It's a tough one, but thank you.
Right.
So I just wanted to say thank you for that reminder about forgiveness. It gives me a place to really focus and continue to expand my own consciousness in that way.
Yeah.
Thank you for
Thank-
sharing that.
Thank you for listening.
Who else?
Mhm.
See, I kept getting struck where you said, in various ways, the whole idea of flow. We talk about the flow of abundance, but to me, it feels like it really is a flow. So when you start thinking about not forgiving, it's it's this attitude of that shouldn't have happened, and you're just stopping right there. You're not in the flow of anything. You're just like, I'm not going forward. That shouldn't have happened. As opposed to, okay, that happened. I have feelings. What am I going to do about it going forward? How am I going to manage those? You know, and there's a different way that I felt like sometimes we don't get in the flow of things with abundance. We just want to like put a wall up, sort of. So,
Right.
I just wanted to add, Allie, you're just saying that. Reverend Allie, I'm sorry. A
oh,
slip of the
yeah,
tongue.
yes, please.
I'm too familiar. Reverend.
Uh,
And sometimes forgiveness is kind of not the first place that I go. I go to I am justifiably angry. My anger is justified. It's justified that I don't have to forgive you because look at what you did. So,
Mm.
yeah. But
so then
justified or not, if you're plopping yourself down by the side of the road and not going forward, you're still plopped down by the side of the road.
exactly, you're staying
Yeah.
there. Yeah. So that justifiably, anger and justifiably unforgiving
Yeah.
can get in the way.
Well,
Yeah.
of course, it's good to take your own pace with it. We all
Yeah.
know there's phases to that.
Right.
Mhm.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Andrea.
You're on, Andrea.
Okay, sorry. Well, this might be unpopular for me to bring up, but I think abundance is valued in contradistinction to its opposite. And there's a lot of the opposite in the world, as well as abundance. And I think just for me personally, I'm just always struck by something and its opposite. And I just try to hold both. And Yeah, and abundance is in contradistinction to all the need that is there too. So that's all I got to say.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Looks like Judith's hand is up.
You're muted, Ellie.
Oh. Judith, yeah.
Allie's, I saw Ellie talking. She's good. Yeah, yeah, it's a great conversation. I just wanted to say that how much in partly what Andrea said inspired me to this thought that how much of abundance is consciousness. I know I had an aunt who was very, physically abundant. I mean, she had more than enough money and a beautiful home and, everything life could offer, really. And she was in poverty consciousness. And then I had another person close to me in my life who was a immigrant and had an abundant life in his country, but when he came here, he didn't. And he always had an abundant consciousness. He didn't have much, is what I'm saying, but his consciousness was so abundant. And one time he said to me, he said, if I can't manage a little money, then I won't be able to manage a lot of money. And he just had this, his presence was abundant, but he didn't have much. So, it's just, it's just so interesting. And I totally, what you said, Andrea, I totally understand that too. I mean, it's, holding the two. There was a piece on PBS NewsHour tonight about Haiti and the dire conditions that people are in, dire poverty, and it was really hard to look at it and to see it. And there might be some people in that situation who, even though they're in that situation, are in an abundant consciousness. So it's kind of a mystery. But the consciousness is really where abundance is, I think.
Right.
I'm complete.
Thank you, Judith.
Yeah.
Isaac, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm glad you spoke to that, Andrea, because I struggle with this. I was raised by this kind of New England concept of just use up every little bit, and I sometimes see in the world, I see greed, I see wastefulness, and I know that there is enough for all the humans on the earth to have their basic needs met. And I don't always see that happening, And it is really hard, as Judith just spoke to. It's really hard to see when people don't have really basic things. And I have so much, And I don't know. I mean, in science mind, we say, God is infinite, unlimited, lavish, abundant, prosper. There's many words to indicate that. And sometimes I just get stuck and I'm like, yeah, and on this earth, my scientific mind wants to say there's only X number of oxygen molecules and iron molecules and carbon molecules, whatever. And I just, it's a piece of work. But I think that Judith is right. It is about consciousness. And my seeing only the greed or seeing only the need and the wastefulness isn't going to feed those people. It's not really, I can get stuck in that place of feeling despondent, and that isn't going to improve my situation or anyone else's. So it is upon me to keep knowing that, well, I may not, see it in the physical realm, that there is a world that works for everyone. There is enough for everyone. And it's, I have to work on that, every day, that there's certainly enough for me, and to do what I can, even in, like our speaker was saying, to leave a loaf of bread or to share when I have more than enough to share, and know that there will be more. I don't have to put the bread in the freezer because I won't have enough next week or whatever. And just knowing that there is more, and to do what I can. But it's, yeah, I've progressed, in the science of mind teaching, where I don't get all triggered by words like lavish and abundant and more and more and more. So I used to just go back to the, like, that's greedy or selfish or wasteful, and I don't really get stuck on those words anymore. I can know, yeah, there's lavishness for all. There's enough. There's more than enough for all. There really is. And that's what I have to keep knowing in my prayer work and in my consciousness. I'm complete.
Thanks, Liza.
Yeah.
Keep thinking about that. You brought up the saying of Jesus, like, the poor you will have with you always. And we're kind of trying to understand infinity from a limited perspective, and there are mysteries involved in that. The fact that there is infinite abundance on a spiritual level, and yet we don't always experience that, on a material level. And where is God in suffering? That question, that the paradox of that is always kind of with us. So anybody, we got a couple of minutes, 3 minutes or so. Who else has a burning thought?
I must have talked fast.
Anybody? And Megan, I
No, I
see
was
her.
going to say, she was saying that, Gabriella, you were saying that you talked too fast. It's like, no, you were just focused. So thank you.
I've also had some coffee today. Like, oh, that was short.
Short to the point.
Right.
So, sorry, I was trying to get my iPad to work. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Megan, welcome.
And then Grady. Megan.
So yeah, I think it comes back to the consciousness, right? It's easy to forget what you have when sometimes you're in a situation of lack. But I think sometimes when you have nothing left to do but surrender, then that's when it shows up, when like not controlling the outcome. So for me, the biggest example of abundance was, when my daughter got sick, our church created the Sunny Fund in Vallejo at the time, because I had to stop working, right? I had no choice. But I had to also keep my insurance, take care of my other kids, pay a mortgage. So to go from full-time working to not being able to work for 6 months with no income, it was probably the first time in my life that I felt scared, that I didn't know how to provide. And there were bills that weren't paid, but I and it really was because it was kind of like this crisis mode. It's like I can only focus on one thing at a time, and my focus was on that. I had to make her healthy. I had to help her get through this. So whatever else was like, okay, Spirit, I got to take this off of my table. So however it shows up, it's going to show up. If it doesn't show up, then we'll figure it out, right? And it showed up in ways I could have never imagined. Like when people say that, it really was ways I never could have imagined. my mom doesn't have a lot, but she did whatever she could, you know, $50 bill here. A friend of mine from work paid fast track for 2 months so I could take Sonny to radiation every day in San Francisco. And then at the end, you know, that's when all the like charities kick in, you know, everybody like, oh, well, we want to help you with Christmas, we want to help you with these things. But once I was back to work, I found that it was hard to accept those things, you know, even though it maybe could have helped me get out of a little bit of debt that I accumulated. I didn't need it, right? It was no longer like this dire need. So I think that like those situations are the best example for me, is that you just don't know. So you can't worry about it. You can't control it. So whatever's going to happen, it's going to happen, right? So I guess it's you surrender to the positive side of it so that it just doesn't kind of consume you or eat you alive. And, you know, it's funny because that was, I think for me, that was the hardest time, because as a mother, you're like, how am I going to take care of my kids and put on the strong face and really know that everything's going to be okay. And there were days that I didn't know, but I just surrendered that, you know, there's some reason that we're going through this. So whatever I need is going to be provided. And it really was. And now, like, of course, in hindsight, I can look back at that and even with more gratitude and see how, you know, without all the money there, but everything was really provided. Like everything she needed for treatment was provided. Prayer was provided, love was provided, support was provided. And, you know, it's not always that way for everyone. And you know, I didn't see the way through it, but we made it through, and better than I could have imagined in many ways. But for that aspect, just surrendering to whatever is going to happen is going to happen, and it'll show up. And if it doesn't, okay, we're going to learn from this too. So I think that consciousness that Judith spoke about, that, you know, if you have one loaf of bread, you're going to make it work. You're going to feed everybody that you can. Or if you have 100 loaves of bread, then you're going to share from that. So it really is staying in that flow. And it's so easy to forget living life and mundane thing to thing, this bill and all the lack and limitation that we're constantly bombarded with. But I think this is a wonderful time of year to remember that, you know, you see people giving turkeys and helping people for the holidays with presents and coats, and they open up, you know, like I wish we didn't need shelters, but they seem to have more shelters in the winter because of the rain. And so I think if we could just stay in that spirit all year round, how much more abundant it could be, just locally and globally.
All right.
That's all. Thank you.
All right.
What
Thank you.
such a powerful story, man. Thank
Yeah.
you.
All right.
For
All right.
Grady, I know you had your mic on, off or on. Did you have a quick
Oh yeah,
comment?
great.
Well, I'll try to be quick. I travel by paratransit, and so today I got two rides. A cab came and the bus came at the same time. And I was all set to be upset about it. But then I realized this is really abundant. The bus driver was pleased because he could go and get his next pickup. And the cab driver was pleased because, you know, he would get this ride to give to me. And so, and I was pleased because I could get to the store faster and have more time. And so it was a good thing. But like I said, at first I wanted to be upset, but it's abundance. And I just settled into it, realized it was abundance, and just gave thanks for it.
And you went
I'm
with
complete.
the flow. You went with the flow.
Hey,
Yeah, I
Thank you.
flow.
thank you, Miss Grady.
And we got or past time, but Dorothy, did you want to say something real quick?
Yes, today in Dr. Dan, John Wesley says, do all the good you can by all the means you can, in all the ways you can, in all the places you can, at all the times you can, to all the people you can, as long as ever you can. And it's just so right on for this season, this reason for this season, and the blessings that we have opened our hearts and our minds to. And Gabriella, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for your consciousness. Thank you for your support of this community. And we are growing. And we are knowing that we are open at the top, that we have what we need when we need it for as long as we need it. And we say, thank you, Mother, Father, God, for this and for the more. And I'm complete. Thank you.
Thank you. And let's all give Gabriella a little bit of love. That sparked such a wonderful discussion. Great talk. Yay. Thank you. All right. We are going to go quickly through the announcements. So hold on to your seats. This Sunday, November 24th, Reverend Dr. Sunshine Michelle Coleman will be speaking on Rise Up and Dance. She may dance, who knows? Meditation at 10, service at 10:30. And then Wednesday, the midweek Oasis service will actually be canceled next week in observance of Thanksgiving. We'll be back the week after. You can join us for our community spiritual practice using the Abundance book by John Randolph Price. Today, we're on the 5th day of the program, 5th affirmation, so just follow along daily in the order that the affirmations appear. We're looking for volunteers to create sacred holiday altars. All kinds of holidays are coming up. So December 5th, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., you'll be there to build holiday altars, apparently, and also help Paul with the Christmas tree as we prepare for the holiday season. Please come. Any time you can give will be appreciated. You can support the Oakland Center's 2025 annual pledge drive. Rising higher, growing deeper is the theme. We appreciate your support as OCSL continues to thrive. And your pledge does make a difference. It not only supports our 2025 budget, it allows each of us to engage in the law of circulation, opening ourselves to a greater good. And I will say, as someone who does not love dealing with my own budget and finances, if there are people on the board and the financial committee willing to do that, we can show them gratitude by giving them more information about how much money they have to work with. That's what I always think about when I think about my pledge. The chair dedication campaign is continuing. You could put a plaque on the back of a chair in our sanctuary or the social hall. There are 4 levels to choose from $50 to $500, and you can put all sorts of things on there: yourself, your family, your friends, your organization that you want to honor. If you order by November 30th to be one of the first inscriptions, you'll get a special star. And you can go to oaklandcsl.org and to the events page to place your order. We are starting an OCSL Buddy Love program. So the intent is to randomly partner people in the community in pairs for the purpose of connection and community bonding and spiritual practice and support. The people in the pair will be able to figure out how frequently they want to meet, weekly or whatever, and whether they want to do it in person or by Zoom, and whether they want to pray or do the abundance program together or whatever. So details are coming soon. The holiday homemade crafts fair is December 15th from 10 to 3. And I'm going to take a drink because my throat's giving out. So please come and support our local brands. There'll be clothing and jewelry and holiday wreaths and all sorts of things. Applications are being accepted right now, and more details will follow. Our nonprofit partner for the month of November is the Singing Tree Mural Project, sponsored by the Unity Through Creativity Foundation. The vision of the foundation is to create a world that is compassionate, connected, and creative through collaborative community artwork and storytelling, and teaching peace-building skills to adults, youth, and elder. They've done 130 murals to date. You can visit unitythroughcreativity.org for more information. There's still time to nominate your favorite nonprofit for 2025 through our Nonprofit Partners Program. Applications have been extended through December 8th. These are organizations that are in alignment with our vision and our values. To learn more and obtain an invitation, visit oaklandcsl.org, select About Us, and scroll down to Nonprofit Partners. The Spirit Treasure Bookstore theme for November is Gratitude and Abundance. And you can visit csl.org to see what's happening within our Centers for Spiritual Living global organization. And then finally visit our website at oaklandcsl.org. Sorry, folks. Sign up for our weekly newsletter, The Village News. And you can like and subscribe us, and that will help out. So now to acknowledge our contact team, the folks that run various departments at OCSL. And go into our conscious giving. This is a time to express gratitude, to engage in a spiritual practice, and to put our spiritual intentions into action. So please follow me as I read the giving affirmation. If you are unmuted, you can follow along out loud. Joyously I give with an attitude of abundance, knowing
knowing
that
that
as
as I
I
give,
give,
I
do
do
receive.
receive, and so it is.
So in that spirit of appreciation, we would like to thank everyone who participated tonight. Our speaker, Gabriella Condi, our meditator, Alice Herndon, and Gabriella in advance for doing our closing prayer. Tonight's tech team was Peter Gum and Alice Herndon. Our tech team lead, Peggy Cotton, is behind the screen, the scenes somewhere. And also behind the scenes is our administrative coordinator, Steve Carter. And thank you to all of you who showed up and offered your presence and your thoughts and your consciousness. And now, on the last little threads of my voice, I will turn it over to Gabriella to do our closing prayer. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Allie. All right, so let's just take a deep breath together. Mother, Father, God, Goddess, universe, all that is as divine loving intelligence moving through me as me. I give thanks for all who showed up tonight and shared things that are on their mind and their hearts and all the inspiration that I received hearing from them. I give thanks for the Oakland Center for Spiritual Living and the ways that we show up for each other in help and love and connection and inspiration. And I speak a word for our center in abundance. I'm knowing vibrancy for Oakland Center for Spiritual Living. I'm knowing vitality. I'm knowing that all our needs are met. And I'm knowing we are attracting those who are looking for what we have to offer. And I'm knowing divine guidance as we grow and evolve as a spiritual center. And higher wisdom is with us along the entire way. I'm knowing everyone here receives a good, restful night of sleep. And I give thanks again for all of your presence tonight. I give thanks to Spirit for bringing us together, and I release my word, knowing it is perfect, whole, and complete. And I give thanks for all of this and so much more, and I let it be. And so it is.
So it is.
So it is.
Yeah.
Amen. Amen.